Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You, coming to you from sunny Puerto Rico. I'm going to pan around, but I can't face this way the whole video. But there's a gorgeous lake right there. And listen to the frogs. There's all these tree frogs. So you're going to get to hear this symphony of nature in the background of this video. Today's topic is going to be focus on the progress, not the ideal result. Alright, I'll explain that in a minute, but I'm going to relax. On this gazebo, we've done several sessions of breath work, some Wim Hof and some other types of breath work, very healing. There's a cold plunge tub here next to the hot tub, so I've spent in each day I've spent 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and 5 minutes in a cold plunge tub of 49 degrees. It's been a really cool retreat, we'll call it, but it's also combining a lot of business and mindset work along with some concepts that are pretty awesome, pretty cool. So, listen to that nature. Absolutely amazing. And if you can see, off in the distance, looks like the sun is going to be setting fairly soon. So, focus on progress, not the ideal result. And this kind of comes from a book called The Gap and the Gain. It's a book co-written by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. These gentlemen identified, and Dan Sullivan I think identified it, and Benjamin Hardy is the co-author. The gap and the gain. And talking about if you're always focusing on the gap between where you are and where you think you should be, it's a perfect recipe for unhappiness, discouragement, displeasure, self-critical judgment. I'm not where I should be. I'm not healed yet. I'm not 100% better yet. And I do know some people who have come extremely far in their recovery from perceived danger pain, TMS, but because they still got this little bit left, they're still furious. They still feel like they haven't arrived yet. Those people are focusing on the gap between where they are and where they think they should be, the ideal result, right? And I can guarantee you this applies to everything in your life. Could be professional career, could be your relationship, whether it be romantic or friendships. If you're always evaluating things on how they should be and not appreciating where you are and the progress you've made to get to where you are, you're going to be unhappy, flat out. Happiness is not in the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Happiness is recognizing, look at what I've done. Look at how far I've come. And it's a super important concept, because how many of us, raise your hand, comment below, if ever since you learned about TMS and perceived danger pain, you've been focusing on the ideal result, and the gap, which is the lack of that ideal result. It's the difference between where you are and where you want to be, or feel you should be. Who here has been focusing on the gap, and as a result is very unhappy with their results in this mind-body approach? I'd venture to say a lot of you. And so it's super important for you to recognize, zoom out a little bit, and see where you were before, completely unaware of this concept, completely panicked in your head, and you are now moving forward. You are making progress. Your mindset is better. Your fear is lower. Your confidence growing day by day. You're making progress. You're just not at your ideal result yet. But if all you do is focus on the gap between where you are and where you think you should be, you're going to remain unhappy, discouraged. and feel like I'm not making any progress because I'm not at the finish line yet, right? And let me use the analogy of running a marathon, 26.2 miles. If a marathon runner was always focused on the gap, I'm only at mile marker 15, I'm not making any progress because I'm not across the finish line yet, how much motivation do you think they would have for continuing? Instead, if they focus on the fact that, wow, I've already run 15 miles, I can feel good about that. And there's people on the sidelines of the road cheering for me and screaming, go, you can do it. It applies to everything. You know, learning a musical instrument, learning a language. If you're always looking at the ideal result and measuring yourself against that, you're always going to be disappointed and you're always going to be unhappy with where you are. So look, the gap. Yeah, it's nice to have a goal. But if all you're doing is focusing on how far away that goal is, it's going to keep getting farther away because you're continuing to judge yourself harshly against that ideal result. You know, somebody used the analogy that if you see the horizon off in the distance and you say, I've got to get there, well, the more you go, the farther away the horizon is, right? You know, I was just on a boat today here in Puerto Rico, and, you know, one way to avoid getting motion sickness is to look at the horizon. Well, the horizon doesn't change. When you're in the water, it's out there, and you can drive for miles, hours, and there's still a horizon that's not within reach. Same thing with life. We will always have a goal that's outside of our reach. But if we're always focusing on the gap between where we are and that ideal goal, we're always going to be unhappy. So the recommendation from this video is to truly focus on the progress you've made, how far you've come, the 15 miles in the marathon you've already run, as opposed to, I'll never get there. I'm not across the finish line yet. Or I haven't recovered completely from pain-free, you know, from this perceived danger pain or TMS. And people are saying, yeah, I'm much better. I had a couple of good days, but then I had a bad day, and now I realize I'm starting all over. No, you're not. You still made progress. Look, you just had a couple of good days. Even if you haven't had a couple of good days, progress looks an awful lot like the fear is coming down. Your confidence is going up. You're much more certain. Your clarity that you're actually okay keeps on growing and increasing. Those things are all progress. Focus there. You're going to end up being a lot more happy. You're going to end up feeling more optimistic because you are focusing on progress, not the ultimate end goal, which you're not at yet. And that's okay. It's perfectly okay. This is a journey. And if all you're doing is measuring yourself against the destination, you're going to miss all the good stuff along the way. You know, it's like kids in the backseat of the car. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Hey kids, look outside. There's a lot of beauty along this road from New York to California. There's a lot of the country to see and enjoy and embrace before you get to California, for example. How many of us, raise your hand, comment below, if you're always waking up asking yourself, am I there yet? Am I healed yet? Am I recovered yet? Am I pain-free yet? Am I symptom-free yet? As long as you're asking that question, you're missing the fact that you've made a lot of progress so far. Just the fact that you're watching this video is such an important step in your progress towards eventually getting pain-free. And I believe it's available to all of us. It truly is. Listen to that. That's a frog. It's called a coqui. Coqui. Listen to it. So cool. I don't see them. They're apparently little tiny things, but they're loud. So don't measure your life against your end goal. Look at the progress. Don't focus on the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Focus on your progress. You will find that you're much more content with your lot in life, with your results so far. And I know there's people who are like, I still get symptoms, they're still pretty intense, and I'm not there yet. But what you'll notice is if you focus on the progress you've made, you'll notice you're not suffering as much as you used to because you're focusing on your progress and not the gap. So the book again is The Gap and the Gain, Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I'm only several chapters into it, but it's already impacting me in a great way. Just to focus on progress. Know that you're making progress, which means as long as you keep going, guess what? You're going to get there. You're going to get to that end goal eventually. And that's okay. So I hope this makes sense. I'm going to turn around and let you folks get a glimpse. Unfortunately, it's cloud cover, so there's not much of a sunset going on back there. But I'm going to wrap this one up because it's about this time of night that the mosquitoes come out. So, Puerto Rico was great. Very rejuvenating time here. Spent time on a boat out on the water. Went swimming a little bit out there. Got to see a lot of Puerto Rico, where much of the time was spent in the house that you've probably seen in the past couple of days' videos. But a great few days here, Wednesday through Sunday. So that's what I got for you today. Hopefully this makes sense. Focus on your progress, not the end result that you're not at yet. The gap and the gain. Focus on the gain, the progress you've made, and not the gap between where you are and where you think you should be. Because if you focus on the gap, that's a perfect recipe for unhappiness. So, love you all, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Love you.